All right, so this next round is going to be an interesting one. Here we have Rodeo by Travis Scott, which I'm representing.
And 2014 Forest Hills Drive by J. Cole, which will be me.
We secretly polled 30 of our friends to see what their favorite albums are and why. We're drafting them into two teams, one represented by Connor and one by myself, Bashir.
Now we toss them into a tournament-style bracket to debate and see which of our friends' music taste comes out on top.
We'll be using a set of categories to determine the winner of each round, including production, lyrics, cultural impact, longevity, replay value, and any intangibles that don't fit into these categories.
So without further ado, welcome to Needledrop Knockout, and let's get into today's matchup.
This one, I feel like it's going to be tougher than Igor v. Foley, because these are both albums from huge artists that many would consider cornerstones of modern hip-hop, both with incredible production, both with a lot of replay value, both with big cultural impact, both that have, great longevity. But, I'm excited to get into this one. I'm going to switch things up with the order of the categories we're going to, because I want to get the one category out of the way that's an easy dub for one, and that's going to be lyrics.
Okay.
I don't think there's any point in me debating that Rodeo has better lyrics than 2014, right? Because
I don't think so.
it's just two different subgenres of hip-hop, right? One is more traditional, East Coast lyrical rap. One is, Southern psychedelic trap. So yeah, obviously J. Cole is a lyricist. He's a wordsmith. It's about bars and storytelling.
Yeah, he's an excellent storyteller, to your point. I love Rodeo as an album. Let's get that out of the way. Both these albums are fantastic. These are both classics. They'll go down in history. But J. Cole is by far the superior lyricist.
Yeah. I will give Rodeo props here, just in the grand scheme of Travis Scott himself. I do think lyrically it's Travis's best album, because modern Travis Scott projects, they have a problem where he is just saying a whole lot of nothing. It looks like he looked up what's the website? Rhyme Zone. Yeah, and he's just saying words and stringing along sentences that have nothing to do with each other. On Rodeo, he is actually kind of talking about topics. Lines connect, they make sense. He's somewhat sticking to a very rough concept. But he's not a lyricist still at the end of the day, so that one goes to Rodeo.
Yeah.
Let's get on to the rest of the categories, which are a lot tougher. Let's start with production.
Okay.
You want to go first?
Yeah, so here's where I am with production. I can't discredit Travis Scott and the production team behind this album. They defined a noise with this album.
Mm-hmm.
They started a massive trend. It was kind of just this big moment for hip hop and trap. And it's hard to really find an argument for J. Cole, but I do think that all things considered, the production, the soul, the kind of heart and energy he puts into the production on this album, it does kind of propel it to a level where I think it could stand up to Rodeo, and I believe even surpass it a little bit. When you look at the songs that kind of stand out, like a GOMD or a Wet Dreams, or kind of any of those big songs, those beats, you hear the first note and you're locked in. And while Rodeo does have excellent production on those, there's a lot of songs where it would take you a couple seconds to recognize the song. I feel like with any 2014 song, the first 2 seconds I recognize it, you know what I mean? Which, again, it's a hard argument to make. Both these are fantastically produced albums. I just have to say it's 2014.
Yeah. I would push. The only reason I push on that is because I think you kind of mentioned it. Rodeo is one of those cornerstone albums that helped shape the sound of what mainstream hip-hop was in the early 2010s, and would continue to be into the late 2010s, and we still hear the effects of that now. Credit to J. Cole, he produced a good chunk of 2014 by himself, and that's incredible. But when you look at the people that worked on Rodeo, you have people like Metro Boomin, Kanye West, Wonder Girl, and then of course Travis Scott himself. He's kind of like a Dr. Dre type producer, where he's kind of composing all of this stuff together. And I think all of those people mixed together, they really made a sound that defined the subgenre of this melodic psychedelic trap beat. And they come in with these really, kind of dark and heavy, sub-bassy instrumentals, but there's still a bit of soul in there too, because like, you have people like Kanye and Mike Dean coming in on a few tracks with their guitars and sample chops that I think are just, absolutely incredible. And there's a variety of sounds on there too. And then, with 2014, to me, the reason why I would say it doesn't get the point here is because ultimately the type of production it's leaning into, it's stuff I say it's not as innovative as Rodeo. It's very much going for this, East Coast, a little bit of Southern influence, type of production that you would hear on a lot of lyrical rap. It's a very excellent rendition of that formula. I think J. Cole and his, team of producers, they did a fantastic job. A lot of those instrumentals are so iconic. I always think about the Genius video where they show how they made the beat for No Role Models. Yeah, the beat for No Role Models. The way they made that beat, if you guys haven't checked out that video, check it out. It's incredible. But at the end of the day, I think Rodeo does more and it creates more. And that's why I think the point should go to Rodeo.
All fantastic points. But the thing is here with my personal opinion is that you mentioned all the collaborators that this album kind of came along with. And with that, you get a lot of flash, you get a lot of ego, you get a lot of these big kind of cinematic moments, we'll say. Where in 2014, you're getting these grounded, soulful, warm beats that were produced by the artist for the artist. And this isn't really Rodeo's fault, but if you go back and listen to it, where you can see that it did influence the production for the future, the beats now are not the greatest trap beats. It's not, none of those are really, there's a lot of really, really good ones. But dare I say they're maybe a little played out in retrospect?
Really?
They're great. Don't get me wrong. 90210 is one of my favorite songs of all time. But when you look at it now compared to what the future has brought, do you think it stands up? I mean, it stands up on its own, but think about 2014. All of those instrumentals, a lot of people have done that same thing afterwards, and it still holds up on its own 2 feet.
All of them?
I think most of them.
I'm gonna bring up what I think is the worst song on that album, though.
Oh boy, he's citing his sources again.
Hello, and then part of Notes to Self. Notes to Self, I don't want to rag on too much. I don't think that's fair, because, it's an end credit song. But that and Hello, especially, I feel like, I don't know, that doesn't hold up.
You're naming me one song on like a 16-song album, dude.
It's a strong departure, though, I feel like.
I don't think it really holds any water. But all things considered, while I do believe that J. Cole and his team did a better job with 2014, I think I have to concede the point to Rodeo.
Okay.
I don't think there's really... It's strong all the way through, and I think my points do have credit, but I can't really argue with the influence of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Which, while we're talking about influence, let's talk about cultural impact.
Yes. So, both of these albums, they kind of served, I think, the same purpose for these artists. You look at J. Cole, he already before this, he had Born Sinner, he had made a lot of waves. He was, Jay-Z's first big signing under Roc Nation, which was a big deal. And then this was his first kind of like really big album that hit the mainstream, right? And this album, I would argue, is what put him in the conversation of what we call the big three now. And then you look at Rodeo, Travis Scott was blowing up prior to Rodeo. He had Days Before Rodeo, and Al Faro, and he was, popping up on features. He was writing and producing for Kanye. Those were all big moments, but Rodeo was his chance to kind of, put the Travis Scott brand out there, and that really did propel him to the top. So in terms of impact overall, they're both so close. My case for Rodeo taking this point would be the fact that this album created so many hits and songs that hold up to this day, that are defining pieces of the decade that it came in.
And to lay you up for something, cultural impact, we are talking about the people influenced by it.
Oh, absolutely. Travis Scott has so many babies in the game. Yeah, Don Toliver, I would even argue people like Juice World, and there's so many artists these days. They have tried to chase that sound, some to varying success. I do think some artists have done that sound better, maybe, but the influence can obviously be traced back there. Whereas for 2014, the impact of that one is strong too. Like, again, big singles, it propelled J. Cole into this like upper echelon tier of rapper, and that has created these conversations that we are still having today.
Yep.
But I just think in terms of like just like the sound of hip hop, it goes to Rodeo.
Now, with sound, I think you'd probably be correct. Now, let's talk about the real cultural influence. Triple platinum with no features. The burger with no cheese. Humble J. Cole biking everywhere.
Yeah.
You get all the memes, right? All the meat of that. You can draw a direct line from this album to the founding of Dreamville and all the artists that come with that. So if we're talking about inspirations, I could argue that Dreamville overtakes the Travis Scott influence, but I think the biggest argument is that this was very much a kind of watershed moment for vulnerable, kind of conscious hip hop, where obviously we had like a Good Kid, Mad City and plenty of more vulnerable conscious albums before this, like Common, all those, blah, blah, blah. However, when this came out, it opened a lot of people's eyes to what storytelling in hip hop could be, what personal storytelling could be, what, really digging deep into yourself to draw on for the music could be. And I think that's been kind of lost to time a little bit. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to cultural impact, it's hard to not think, like, if you put these albums side by side and said which one had more cultural impact, I think a good 80% of people would point to 2014. This was his project. This is his classic. Like, when you look at J. Cole's discography, this is the one for me. And everything that it did for him, for his future, for the artists that would work under him in the future, for the memes, for putting him in the big three. Come on.
Yeah, and you did bring up a really good point about how this kind of opened a lot of people's eyes to storytelling, because I don't think this is a hot take that you would disagree with. I think Kendrick does what J. Cole does better in most regards, but and I really don't mean this as an insult. J. Cole serves as a great rapper who's even an entry level, but like the everyday man, right? J. Cole, I think for those type of people and those perspectives, I think he creates very relatable tracks, because he's really tapping into telling these stories of all these different people and going through a wide range of emotions for all these people. Whereas, sometimes people like Kendrick, they do the same thing. They're telling other people's stories, but they're focused in one area. Whereas J. Cole is kind of like, broader.
I don't know if this is like a good summary to what you said, but J. Cole does what Kendrick does without scaring those.
Yeah. Yep.
Basically. Like, J. Cole, we have a song about him, fucking a chick from math class and losing his virginity.
And people love that song.
And people love that fucking song.
If Kendrick made a song like that, I don't think it would work.
and then just a year later or 2 years later, I don't know how long the thing was, he had to Pimp Butterfly, and you're like, this dick ain't free. You've got J. Cole, where it's, I think, like, you can kind of trace all of the storytelling in hip hop back to Outkast. I think J. Cole is very much a child of, Outkast and the way he kind of structures his storytelling songs. And I think taking that influence and twisting it into a new generation, it's, you're taking the best of the past, mixing it with the best of the future, and then you have this big final package that's just an absolute wonderful masterpiece of an album that story tells the entire way through.
Yeah, I agree. I'll give up this point to 2014 then. Let's move on to longevity. I forget if I alluded to this in the beginning, but both of these albums, for those who don't know, recently had 10-year anniversary re-releases, and they both did really, really well. I think it's safe to say both these albums have aged really well. They both have songs that are still tracking today. You can't go, you can hear No Role Models when you're out and about anywhere. Similarly, you can hear Antidote at like every club or every party. Like, both of these albums just have huge hits. My argument for Rodeo taking longevity is, I don't want to say something that gets me disproven by the numbers, but just on gut feeling, I think the hits on Rodeo were bigger than the hits.
No Role Models, man.
No Role Models
No.
is inching it close. I think Antidote edges it a little bit, doesn't
Wet
it?
Dreams, GOMD.
Did those chart as high though?
Not as high, but they charted high.
And they've remained in. I know Wet Dreams and Love Yours is another big one that's remained in rotation. But you look at tracks on Rodeo, like 90210 is referenced so often. You know, that's a song that everyone loves. Pray for Love is, you know, a classic. Apple Pie, I always see that cited as one of Travis's like strongest moments, both like production wise and like I say storytelling quotes, but like, you know, like content wise, those tracks are going to continue to just age really, really well. Whereas for 2014, you know, it's no slouch in that department either. But I think Rodeo has a more accessible sound because it is, you know, deeply rooted in this subgenre of hip hop that has permeated the mainstream. It, you know, you could argue that sound is getting stale now, but even when you kind of look at, you know, the staleness of that sound now, people always cite how that sound used to be greater with albums like Rodeo, and those songs are still in rotation because that album executed that sound so well, and it still holds up today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know about all that. I think Rodeo has become a little bit sonically dated. It is influential in every capacity, still very much enjoyable, still very much fantastic. But you look at how that genre has evolved since that album came out, and it has kind of been left behind a little bit as far as intricacy and stuff goes. That's semantics, really. I think the merit of this category doesn't go to bringing down Rodeo, but to hyping up 2014. And the way I'm going to do that is by saying you're getting really just the thematic kind of resonance of this album. It's timeless. There's like having your first fuck is a canon event for everybody, you know? It's like you get these themes and, you know, missing your hometown, you know, trying to, you know, keep yourself when you're finally finding success and growing up. These are things that people really resonate with. And from not like a hit making standpoint, but from an album top to bottom enjoyment standpoint, I think 2014, you can listen to it now the same you did back then, and it holds up the exact same. It doesn't get worse with age. I arguably will say that it ages better the longer you take from listening to it from the beginning.
I guess just for context, I had heard 2014 like years ago, and then I obviously have heard the big songs here and there, but I didn't really sit down and properly, you know, digest this album until we were doing the series and preparing for it. And besides a few moments here and there, the album did sound very fresh to me. And a lot of that credit does go to the sound that, you know, Cole and his team were able to produce. So I agree that it definitely holds up really well today.
People can talk about Travis Scott's production, but it's not a watershed moment for the genre. It's an innovative moment for the genre, but it's not that piece of music. This is a revered, culturally impactful album, the lyrics of which are held in Congress. Like,
see, now I feel like now we're getting back into cultural impact. These categories are
But the point is that it's revered now. It is still revered. Rodeo is loved. It's not revered.
You don't think it's revered?
No, not to the same extent 2014 is.
Really? I don't know if I agree. Maybe it's just because, like, online, I'm in different circles, but I feel like I see just as much revere for Rodeo as I do 2014. But
we'll chalk it up to a tie, and if we want to come back to it later, we will.
Yeah, okay. Let us know in the comments which side you fall on for this one.
Now, replay value. I'll agree with you, Chief. It's not 2014 Forest Hills Drive.
Yeah.
There's a couple songs there that bang, and I'll listen to them all the time, but largely it's Rodeo. I can't really set up an argument for that.
Yeah, definitely. I
can put on 90210 any time of the day, and I'll be.
Mm-hmm. You know what the song is for me that I always go back to? It's on the deluxe technically, so it shouldn't count in this at all. But Never Catch Me. Have you heard that one? Yeah, that fucking guitar. I don't know why. In my coveted night drive playlist.
He mentions it in every video. Dude.
That is a highlight on that playlist. He
mentions it every fucking video.
Yeah, replay value for Rodeo.
I want to loop back to longevity.
Okay.
A lot of your arguments for longevity would fit in a replay value. I think longevity goes 2014 still. Rodeo, Travis Scott has made better albums than Rodeo.
You think so?
I think so.
Which one?
I think
You think Afterworld's better?
I do. And that's a common argument. If you go to J.
I
Cole's
know,
fans,
I know.
no, you go to J. Cole's fans, none of them are saying any of his shit since 2014 is better than 2014.
This is true.
It holds
This is
up
true.
so much better than Rodeo. In the artist discography and in general, just back and forth online. So I'll request, since you made a great point for replay value during longevity, I think I get longevity here.
Yeah, that's fair.
So Intangibles. This is where it gets interesting.
Yeah. You want to go first?
I mean, I got my notes here. I'm addressing these pretty as I go. So, yeah, I mean, it's what I have written down here is that Rodeo connects to the listener by sound to sound. 2014 connects heart to heart. You're listening to somebody's journey home after finding success, after struggling in New York City, after being at the bottom. You're listening to a timeless story. It's heartwarming. I mean, even when I'm listening to the credits, I mean, we joked about the credits, we listened to it. Those like 13 minutes of thanking people, those are people that made him.
Yeah.
To us, it's a joke. To him, it's like, it means everything.
Yeah.
This album for J. Cole is, I've used the word watershed so many times this episode, but it's a moment for him. It's a moment for his family, his people, his city. I think it's just a gorgeous wraparound for his entire world that this album came out, did as good as it did, and it made its waves the way that it did. And it holds up today. I just think everything about it, top to bottom, is just a beautiful expression of love and dignity and struggle and success.
See, with Rodeo, it's interesting because Travis Scott is not a rapper anyone looks to when it comes, I would argue, and no one looks to Travis Scott for content, right? Or concepts or, lyrical value. You're 100% right that Rodeo, it is primarily about the sound. And I do think it's important that we don't discredit that facet of it.
We gave it production.
Yeah, and
replay value because of the sound.
And I do just want to give it credit where it is. Obviously, it's not a full out fleshed concept album. I'm not going to argue that, but I do think Rodeo paints a pretty great theme that I know just personally from friends that are like huge Travis Scott heads, like way more than me, resonated with them a lot in how this album, it's loosely about leaving home, right? In a lot of ways. Like the Rodeo is kind of like this like reference to the game and like the world as a whole. Travis Scott is leaving, his hometown in Houston and stepping out into, Hollywood and the rest of the world and entering this big stage as a major hip hop star. And a lot of that is about him kind of coming to terms with what that life is. He's sticking with, his usual party aspects, of course, but there's moments on here where he's talking about, kind of going from, being in the basement at his mama's to finally making it and bringing her to the top, to, like he says, like from the first to the 19th floor, and kind of letting go of home. That's why I think Apple Pie kind of helps really tie the whole album's message together really well, because it's like, Mom, you've done so much for me, but it's time for me to step out and, go on my own. It's time for my own adventure. And, for those people that grew up listening with this album, and it even hit me, in 2020, I think that message, it resonated with people then, and it resonates with people now. And I think it's just a fantastic sounding album.
You and I were talking about, or you were speaking about how it's a going away from home album, right? And you spoke to the point that it's not a fully fleshed out concept album. And there's a few songs that point to the themes and relevancy of it. Completely correct. Now, we're looking at an album that does have themes. It's still very much production focused, still has themes. I feel 2014, obviously you don't have the experience with it I do. You weren't, listening to it. It was my third ever CD. As you get older, you think about the lyrics that he's putting out there. And it's hard to not, feel that pull at your heartstrings of missing home, of missing everything that comes to you. And while Rodeo is like a leaving home album, where you're excited but a little retrospective, 2014 is a full experience of someone's emotions, top to bottom. And like, I'm just gonna consult my notes one more time because I wrote this down because I felt it was really, really relevant. Rodeo is a vibe album. 2014 is a life album. This is something that you could play in 25 years for your kids, and they'd be like, damn, like this shit is thematically, emotionally vulnerable, relevant. The themes are timeless. Not to say rodeos aren't, but I'm saying that if you were going to show your kid an album about going away from home or coming home or the emotions associated with it, you're not going to show them Rodeo. You would probably show them 2014 when you're older, when you've had to listen to it and grow with it. You'd probably be on the same page. Now, Intangibles are beyond just, what the story of the album is and what it means. Travis Scott's a great live performer. That's another aspect of this. His shows go crazy.
Yeah.
But the way J. Cole performs this album with the amazing, breath play, the wording, everything of it, it's just the same vulnerability and emotion that comes through on the album comes through in person. When Travis Scott performs Rodeo, it's hype as fuck. But it's Travis Scott live performances. You know what you're getting with that. So I think, in general, 2014, it does what it needs to do. It does the themes, the emotions, the live aspects. It generally creates its own legacy. And its legacy, even now, is not decline at all, like we said. It's just overall a full package album.
I agree with everything you just said. But what's weird is I do think Rodeo is a full package album. And here's why. Where it lacks in those themes and like conceptual storytelling, like emotional beats, in my opinion, it makes up for that in its sound.
But you're saying it lacks. That's the thing. We both said 2014's production is top tier.
Yeah.
And you just openly admitted where it lacks. I don't think there's an aspect of 2014 that lacks. I think everything of it is exceptional.
We said replay value.
Nope, but where it's exceptional, it's exceptional in every category. But where Rodeo is better, it's better on the sound only. It's the sound only. You still have a great sound on 2014. You don't have great lyrics on Rodeo. You don't have these emotional, like, life-changing moments on Rodeo. You might have like a moment or two where you listen to it and go, wow, that's awesome because I had a bad semester in college, and that's great. That's what music's supposed to be about. But 2014, like I said, you play it for your kids, your grandkids. I'm not showing my grandkids Rodeo, probably.
Damn, why not?
I don't know about you, like, because by the time that comes around, Rodeo is gonna be, it's gonna be dated, I think. I still do not think 2014 has lost a singular step in its impact, its story, its vulnerability, and what it sets out to do. I feel like Rodeo, even now, has lost a single step. It's not far behind, but it's lost a step.
I feel like we gotta dive into that then, because what makes you think it's lost a step?
I think what it does great is the sound. The sound is its exceptional feature. It's got not great lyrics. It's got, what it does well is the sound. And when you're looking at sound itself, sound is such a fickle thing. It can be timeless, it can not be timeless. What's timeless is a sound like 2014, where you're getting something that's already been a sound. Like you mentioned, this is like an older type of beat. This is something that's been stepped back already. This is a proven sound.
Yeah.
Rodeo that sound has been beaten the fuck to death. Like, you gotta admit, that genre is arguably dying. It's already on its way out. Who knows what this is gonna sound like in 20 years when you listen back to it again. 2014 is still gonna sound fucking amazing. It's been sounding amazing since the moment that sound was invented.
This goes into a whole wider conversation that I don't think we can fit into this video, but I think this is an issue on timing also because, yeah, 2014 is doing a sound that, was done like a long time ago. I'm sure back in the day, like early 2000s, before the 2010s hit and we got, the artists we know now, that sound, it went away for a reason, right?
It went away not because it was bad. It went away because people were innovating. That's not a bad thing in itself. When J. Cole brought it back, it sounded just as good as it did when it left. And in maybe 10 years, when the Rodeo sound gets brought back, it might sound, just as good, but we don't know that yet. What I'm saying is that as of this moment, 2014 has a proven track record of being a timeless sound. We've both agreed that the lyrics and the storytelling are timeless as well. So what are we looking at? Rodeo is a greatly produced album, but we don't know if it's going to be the same in the future. And when we're playing on a game of inches like this, it's these little concessions you have to make to say what the better album is. because we're not gonna get it by a landslide like Foley Igor or Panic Panic.
Yeah.
This is gonna come down to the wire. And I think you know deep down that 2014 is the better all-around album. We both love Rodeo. This is not like an argument. This comes down to like, this album made somebody the fucking big three. Travis Scott's not in the big three.
Yeah.
Like, let's get real here. Like, this album was so fucking good. It took J. Cole.
What did Drake say? Travis got you wiped out.
No, Travis got me wiped out. But listen, it's like, this album got somebody in the big three for a reason. It took J. Cole to the big three. This album was so good, it took J. Cole to the big three. What has he made that was this good since? Like I said earlier.
Yeah.
This album is so fucking good. It's the best thing he's ever made. It's the best thing he's probably ever going to make, period. Right? The Fall Off's not going to be this good.
Hope it is.
Yeah, we could hope. But, like, this is an album that is going to go down in history. Rodeo's going down in history, but it's not going down as something that made somebody part of the big three, that made an entire generation of people feel more comfortable being vulnerable in their music, that created an entire label of people that want to do the same, that created and founded and helped JID, created and founded and helped everybody else. Like, you can point to the artists, and it's arguable. You can point to anything, and it's arguable. But what it comes down to is what is the proven track record, and that's 2014. I'm not doing this because I want to win. I'm doing it because I genuinely believe it's a better album. Like, come on. 2014 Forest Hills Drive, ladies and gentlemen. We'll lock it down. 2014 Forest Hills Drive. We'll be moving on to the next round.
Yeah. Damn, I thought I had this one coming in.
No, I think either one of us could have left with it. I just think it comes down to emotions at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
You guys got to let us know what you think also. We
Yeah.
definitely would love to hear your feedback.
this would be something that we would really like to hear from you guys, because we, as you saw, we had a hard time arguing it. So
Yeah.
maybe some other opinions would change our minds.
But yeah, 2014 moves on. What's our next one? Do we want to tease it?
Let's tease it. I'll tease it. You want to tease it?
Sure.
We're gonna do same. Is it the same one we were talking about?
I think so.
You do one, I'll do another one.
Control by SZA.
And Swimming by Mac Miller.
Yeah, that one should be real interesting.
It should be potentially more contentious than this.
Yeah, I have a feeling it will be.
So we'll see how that goes. But until then,
Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. You know, if you've been liking the series, be sure to like and let us know. Look forward to, you know, more and more episodes where we battle these albums that our friends submitted. And, you know, thank you again to our friends for submitting those. I think these are making for some great debates. But, yeah, looking forward to the next one, and we'll see you guys then.
absolutely.
Yep. Peace.